The fashion industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. From high street to high fashion, we're enticed by trend-led design, contemporary storefronts, and engaging customer experiences. As we entered the 2020s, the fashion world truly opened its doors to the world of digital. Fashion's engagement with the digital world had been bubbling under the surface, but was abruptly erupted with the rise of the coronavirus pandemic. Retailers, brands, agencies, and individuals grappled to get to grips with this uncharted territory, each trying to find their place in this new digital world. Out of necessity, many have only now begun to realise the commercial and creative opportunities available through digital.
You don't realise how important an umbrella is until it rains. From the ground up, this could be something that lives on and is really good. It's not just a quick fix.
Tomorrow's insight: fashion and technology. A digital renaissance? We'd seen notions of digital within fashion before. Magazines have used augmented reality to bring covers to life. Fashion films have used virtual reality to immerse us into their seasonal story. And e-commerce and retail regularly use artificial intelligence to provide a more streamlined service, be that chatbots, product recommendations, or targeted advertisements. This use of technology was often perceived as unappealing, or a bit of a novelty or gimmick. Now, the fashion world is inextricably and explicitly linked to the digital.
There's definitely been like a much more significant digital transformation and adoption imposed, especially by the pandemic. I think we've witnessed the fashion industry becoming a lot more alive with like debate and reflection on how we can restructure the broken systems that were kind of like traditionally set in stone.
We're seeing like a lot of brands turn to gamification, such as Burberry and Balenciaga. So a lot of brands are feeling, they need to step into the digital realm and how they can transform and translate their brand messaging through the digital narratives.
I think we're all questioning, how do we get involved in it? Are we interested in it? Can we avoid it? What is fashion's role in it? And what is luxury's role in it? I think is the big question. And how do the big key players tap into it? Do they ignore it?
Post-pandemic, it's clear the use of technology within fashion is not just a solution, but an opportunity for innovation and profit. With Pandora's box flung open, what should the fashion world be doing going forward?
I guess reassessing workforce, beginning to put in place the people that will be able to create these experiences in the future, and then just experimenting with it, having that confidence to follow that technology roadmap and not just consider it as a one-off. It's got to be that commitment to it all the way through.
And there are lots to commit to. Augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, NFTs. There's a buffet of innovation on offer, and for those not in the know, it can seem alien. While we often think of the fashion world as a creative hub of newness and creativity, as an industry, we are usually the last to break with tradition and embrace groundbreaking ideas.
For sure, in the fashion world, people have been slow on the uptake because they would rather stick with what's safe and known to them than take a risk and look stupid. And I understand that as well.
And the fashion industry tends to, we have our old ways, right? But it's also so interesting to see how can technology improve or spark new ideas in a way.
Despite the fashion industry's apprehension to embrace tech, it's clear that this osmosis of fashion and digital has started a snowball of innovation and creativity. This digital relationship isn't going anywhere anytime soon. We're on the cusp of a digital renaissance.
I really feel like it's when the internet first started. That's what it feels like to me.
We live in such a modern digital age.
We're at a time now where we can go back to the drawing board and really restructure how we communicate and deal within the fashion landscape.
I think it's really clear that the skill sets aren't naturally there within fashion, but what I think is becoming clear is that everything that can be digitized will be digitized, and that includes everything from the garments that we wear to the places that we go. And so I think that offers a massive opportunity to create really awe-inspiring experiences for all of us in the future.
The fashion industry is now full steam ahead. exploring new paths to engage and create, turning to tech and digital to narrate, invite, and educate.
It's Internet 3.0. We know what the old internet was, we knew what it became, and now that we have the chance to recreate it, what kind of world do we want to create?
That digital move forward, I see that as a way to help deal with some of the diversity issues. Like brands should lean into that more.
But ultimately, kind of what all we're doing is looking to unlock creative expression. And wherever there's been a platform for people to express their creativity, people have flocked to it.
Brands and retailers are now incorporating the likes of digitally rendered fashion, virtual reality, and 3D animation into their worlds, waking up to the power of digital innovation. While some latched onto the digital renaissance as a gimmick tool to feel current, luxury brands have used 3D scanning and interactive technology to invite customers into their Fashion Week fantasy. Crossovers with gaming platforms such as Nintendo's Animal Crossing have bloomed too, with mini digital collections launched. But this is really just the tip of the iceberg.
It is inevitable that digital adoption is going to continue. And I think what will change is this kind of flat experience that we're talking to each other through a screen will drop away, and we will be able to either pull that experience out of the screen into the world around us, or be pulled into the screen and really become part of that too.
We now expect to see brands and retailers fortifying their customer relationships through digitization.
What we have realised is that digital-only experiences offer another opportunity for brands to communicate.
In the near future, companies should be able to nurture and build a loyal, committed, and engaged fan base by sharing their narrative and inviting consumers deeper into their world through the screen. But we're still in the early stages.
At the moment, brands are just showing digital shows that like users can't fully engage with. I think it's really important that there needs to be more accessibility to like the craftsmanship beyond the collections, beyond the products.
So with augmented reality, it means that you can step into that brand universe, so you can really be a part of the narrative of that brand.
Particularly for immersive technologies, it's that ability for us to place the consumer right inside the heart of the story of a brand. You know, previously storytelling was very linear. It was from brand to consumer. And what we're now beginning to move into is an era where you become part of that story and you have agency within that story.
The difficulty is creating tangible digital experiences. At present, virtual reality and augmented reality allow, for example, retailers to invite customers and press to events, and designers can take us into their studios.
We at IODF have been finding like solutions and trying to like enable people to experience IRL like moments from their handheld like devices. Even with our Machine A project, like people could enter the experience sitting in their bed or in their kitchen, for instance. And I think it's a lot about like offering consumers a tool of escapism and allowing them to interact with a brand or a product on a much more like accessible level.
It needs to be something that is brought into the company core structure from the very beginning. When you're designing a collection, also you need to have a digital version, because that digital version can then go into e-commerce, digital try-ons, body tracking, AR. It can go into your future digital wardrobes. Like thinking in that way, that it's not just something that is instead of campaigns.
Alongside storytelling and carving wider brand narratives, fashion's relationship with digital can aid in creating positive change too. It's no secret that the industry thrives off being an elitist bubble, and despite best efforts, is still not as inclusive and democratic as it claims.
It's all about representation. I think the fashion industry needs to listen more to the individuals that it is representing.
For us, it's not about just creating a kind of tech gimmick which feeds a conversation, but actually thinking about where it sits, who it would talk to, how we can extend the demographics of that we're talking to within fashion as well.
This is where technology and digital tools can come in. Avatars can be created in any skin tone, size, or gender. Through 3D design programming, garments can be tailor-made to any form. With virtual worlds, shows, or spaces, anyone, no matter location, budget, or equipment, can attend, stepping away from the invite-only front-row frenzied fashion stereotype. Although, even in the digital spheres, there are still steps to be made.
For a long time, the tools and softwares that are being used or have been adopted into the fashion industry at large, they were not made or birthed to be used within fashion.
If we're to talk about digital fashion solely, a lot of the softwares, they're built by white cis men, for example, and we're questioning the choice of the standard default avatar.
The technology space is very interesting because it very clearly shows how when you have a more diverse set of, I mean diverse in every possible way, not just race or gender or neurodivergency or whatever. I think the more diversity you have within the technology space, the more progress you make.
So for us, it's not about cancel culture, but actually getting to the root of the problem and seeing how we can work and evolve.
People like myself will be able to make their voices heard and have our stories told and feel like inclusion isn't tokenistic.
The more brains from diverse backgrounds you can get in on this space, the better.
Fashion for a long time has been locked in this space where it was kind of impenetrable. Now it's very much democratized because of technology.
The digitization of fashion can improve the production and design process too, in most cases providing sustainable solutions along the way. From high street giants to small independents, as its benefits become apparent, the use of 3D programming in design is becoming more and more commonplace.
There's definitely been an increased attention to where garments are coming from, and there's definitely a focus on sustainability. We've seen a lot in the media, especially on the fight for fair pay and where garments are sourced and made. And this is kind of transferred into the digital space through blockchain technology. So people are kind of not only interested in where their physical garments are coming from, they're also now starting to showcase an interest in the digital.
There's little to no waste when you design digitally too. No toiles, no fabric scraps. Designers are able to make mistakes, to redesign again and again, without wastage, and in turn financial pressure. Working digitally also supports retailers and buyers. At present, online shoppers return 15 to 30% of orders, and in some cases, these are destined for the landfill rather than back on the shelf.
The whole pipeline till we create the actual product is completely digital. So we don't waste any materials till this point. We can even sell digital. So we send renderings out, the buyers like them, and then we produce actually the prototype that looks exactly like that with just one sampling cycle.
A designer can show a buyer their collection, and in times of past, if a buyer brought some kind of information to you as to, we would prefer to have seen a collection in black and a longer pleat, or wanted some amendments on the collection. The benefits of digital is that you can there and then show them either archive prints, show them those amendments, and then continue the conversation.
It's still giving you a certain kind of joy to produce digital. We can produce everything digital first of all and have no waste, and then produce and be straight away in production mode. So that's actually really amazing. For me as a designer, it's fantastic as well, because you actually have a proper idea how it looks like.
Augmented reality innovation has the greatest potential to really impact sustainability. And one way that you can really do that is through digital try-ons, because offering digital try-ons naturally results in less wastage because brands are basically producing fewer prototypes.
The production process for designers, artists, and brands can also be much more efficient when streamlined through software. Access to these platforms and programs is becoming more democratic too.
We have been able to look like a major player in case of the production line from the beginning. And these 3D programs and all this open source software give you opportunities that you normally just have if you're a company with 400 people.
In the final stages of the production line, retailers are using a plethora of digital tools to engage with the consumer, with more on the horizon. Artificial intelligence and machine learning allow for data processing to reach new heights. From chatbots and supply chain management to virtual changing rooms and customer behavior predictions, the global market for AI in retail alone is expected to grow to over $5 million by 2022.
In terms of the retail space, an awareness of the technology and the impact it's having, and going with that, people have some catching up to do in terms of the potentiality of all of this stuff. What could you be doing with physical products to combine it with the digital space? We're only just beginning to explore that, I think.
Bitcoin, a form of cryptocurrency, and now NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, are the somewhat tangible bridge between the physical and digital space, challenging the traditional ideas of creative and media consumption. Many people are using blockchains, which in basic terms is an ever-expanding list of transactional digital records, to reimagine art and fashion, selling their creations to those who want the digital investment, clout, or to collect.
It's a technology that's been around for decades soon, like thanks to Bitcoins. But it's also technology that's being used now more and more in so many different areas. And it's also being sort of adapted and included in fashion supply chains.
We've traditionally been building experiences on a web that was built 20, 30 years ago. What is clear is that those opportunities will begin to drift not just within our browser, but into the world around us. So this idea of a digital layer permanently living across the real world will really change the kind of digital experiences that we can have in the future.
It's become quite big within the art world already, but I think there's a real opportunity for designers and brands as well to explore it further.
If you have money from blockchain, you have a lot of money to throw around, and it's much safer to invest it in something than to have it fluctuate with the market.
I think that's what NFTs is giving unknown or new designers and creatives this new sort of possibility of exploring. It's a niche, but I think that also excites me in many ways with what I do, that it's not necessarily for anyone and everybody.
With the crypto NFT space, for example, is this amalgamation of the physical and digital creative realm in terms of ownership and remuneration. I think that's really interesting. What I would like to see more of is more of an exploration of our physical, real world digital selves.
While this new transaction format is novel and excitingly experimental, the use of cryptocurrency means the process uses a substantial amount of energy.
So sustainability is a big conversation piece and a buzzword. And a lot of the time, digital is kind of viewed as just indirectly kind of solving those. Like if you're creating a digital asset, it means it doesn't have a carbon footprint weight. Well, actually it does.
Digital fashion houses such as The Fabricant, DressX, and IODF pull digital fashion into the IRL experience. Digital-only designs work in tandem with the physical world, using softwares such as CLO 3D ZBrush and Substance Painter to mimic the weight, texture, and feel of a physical garment. These pieces are often one of a kind and limited edition, to be photographed or filmed for a finite moment, or captured as a filter for followers to feast upon. Often designs feature the hours of labour that went into each piece, much like the artisans of couture.
We aren't solely focused on digital only. We are very aware that we live in a tactile reality and that clothes are always going to exist for the most part on our bodies. So we're always about the unison of offline and online, IRL, URL, and how we can weave in those experiences of digital fashion within our physical selves.
There is still a space for haute couture and textures and fabrics that can't be expressed on screen, of course, and I think that that's really beautiful.
Many within fashion have seen the move to digital as a daunting affront on what makes the industry so special. But it's the homogenization of both IRL and URL experiences where tech and digitization within fashion will thrive.
Google Glasses, everyone laughed at people wearing them before, but I think that this is, from what I hear from all of these different sources, that it's going to be very real quite soon. And so that's where virtual clothing would be more of an asset than just something that lives on your phone or post on social media.
I do feel that sense of almost childlike wonder to be here now and having this conversation. It feels really exciting, and I'm happy to be here and see where it goes. I think there's so much that can be achieved. This is the future, and it's just so exciting to see and be a part of something that's helping to drive an industry forward.
I kind of look at the adoption of face filters as being a really good example. 3-4 years ago, I think people would have been hesitant to see them being used or even imagine that people would engage with them. But on a daily basis, these are being used billions and billions of times every single day and have almost become second nature. When that drifts out into the real world and we're able to track your body in real time and place digital content onto you in the real world in real time, that opens up the possibilities for really truly breathtaking expression and creativity. So I'm excited for what's coming. And I think for brands to get there, they need to start on that journey now.